This is a treat for me, and it's a treat for everyone else too. I get to see Dr. Bruce Elsey never because he is holed up in Colorado inventing new litters, new cat foods, and he's put a capstone on his career, which is speaking for cats, and now he's going to shout for them. And I have to say, I feel so grateful, Dr. Bruce, for not just your underwriting of Cat Chat, my show that went off the air on Sirius 10 years ago, and you said, that's okay. We'll take care of you. You can do Cat Chat as a podcast, but also the totally incredible, world shattering Cat Film Festival is completely underwritten by Dr. Elsey's. And while to some people it might seem just fun or even vaguely frivolous, it's not, because every single movie has a purpose to change our views about cats, to improve our understanding of them, and to celebrate the people who rescue them. And that's really what you've spent your life doing. And now you're going even a step further, a national directive for feline health and reform. This is a big mouthful. By the time we had a chance to get together on this wonderful platform of technology, you had already done something which took my breath away and, in a way, helps the breath of cats, which is you took all fragrances of any kind out of your litters. Now, when I first met you and learned about Dr. Elsey's and why it was different than other cat litters, because it's designed by you, personally made by you, scientifically developed by you, to appeal to cats, be comfortable for cats, and to draw them into the litter box. And while other litters were adding pine scent, which the cats hate, citrus scent, lavender, all these awful things, at one point you were putting in the fresh scent of the fields in Colorado near where you live. And I thought that's really great because cats love grasses. So why did you even remove that from your litters?
Back in 2011, now the what was then called the American Association of Feline Practitioners, which they've hence changed their name to the Feline Veterinary Medical Association.
Oh, really? I
Yes, they
didn't know
did.
that.
Yeah,
I
I
was
don't know
still calling
why.
it
Just
AFP.
to
I was so
confuse.
grateful I knew the
Yeah,
name.
just to confuse all of us. But
Right. Yeah.
so they came out with guidelines, several different guidelines, and one of them was the environmental needs guidelines. And
Oh,
this is the environmental needs guidelines. And the fifth pillar of those guidelines, it talks about how important a cat's sense of smell is. And a cat's sense of smell is on the order of 14 times better than ours is. And so we live in a environment of sight and sound as far as being able to feel safe in our environment. But
mhm.
cats actually use their sense of smell to feel safe and secure
Right.
in their environment. So if we do anything that interferes with their very sensitive sense of smell, then that leads to stress. And then stress leads to a number of different medical conditions. Probably the one that's most serious in cats is they get painful bladder syndrome. It's referred to as interstitial cystitis in cats, but it's referred to as painful bladder syndrome in people. And they'll actually have ulcers inside of their urinary bladder,
Wow.
have blood in their urine, and they'll associate pain with urination and the litter box, and then they stop using the litter box. Then they end up being in shelters or abandoned. So it's a snowballing effect in a really bad direction for cats if we do anything that interferes with their very sensitive sense of smell. And we were initially using some scent in our cat litters. And regretfully, I didn't quite catch on until I was reading an article in the summer edition of the Feline Veterinary Medical Association, where the author said that not only is scented cat litter not advised in cats, but it's also even painful for cats, that their sense of smell is that acute.
Hurts their head, so to speak.
Hurts their head. So at that juncture, even though we did have a successful scented cat litter, we pulled it off the market. And there was really no need for a scented cat litter anyway, because if you have 100% sodium bentonite cat litter, then that controls odor in its own. And so there was no need for fragrances being added to that product. Now, other
Fragrances that always
companies,
they were added for the sake of humans, without
right?
being the detriment to the cat. Although at one point you did add the scent of the outdoors as an environmental enrichment for the cats. I just want to say you just didn't do it blindly.
Right.
You had intention, which is what I've always really admired. And
Yeah,
then because you own the company, you created everything, and you can pivot and go, never mind, we'll just get rid of how many millions of pounds because that idea no longer works.
exactly. Yeah, we had a seat change, you might say.
Yeah, but you could ride it. You were the captain of the ship. I think a lot of companies that make litter just do it as one of many other things they do, and as huge corporations, where a decision like that would take years to trickle down, even if a change were going to be made. So I think the nimbleness of being the captain of a much lighter ship, even though Dr. Elsey's is probably the most popular litter in the country, but you are the captain of it. And that really must be gratifying to know that you can make a decision, learn something different, and change what you decided all on your own shoulders.
Yeah, it really is. I would like to think that we always put the cats first. We try to speak for cats as pretty much our motto, if you
Right.
will.
Yes.
And that's the motto at our feline practice as well, that we always speak for cats. I think that obviously you've already mentioned that large litter companies, they're conglomerates. They just don't have the capability to roll with the flow, if you will, and make products that really are best for the cat's overall health. The reason that they put scent in their cat litters is that they oftentimes will add other things like limestone, which has very minimal absorption, but it does
Oh,
make their product more economical for them to make. Or they'll
oh,
use other types of clay rather than sodium bentonite, which is a more expensive type of clay that doesn't clump as well, doesn't hold a ball together in the box. And then what happens? You start to get odors developing as a result of the clumps breaking down. So those are all things that are part of the cat litter business, if you will. But if you're going to have the best product for the cat, you need to have one that holds holds the clump together in the box. It doesn't track as bad because it's a little larger particle size. And you want one that has no fragrance because the cat's sense of smell is so acute that any fragrance at all is a huge deal for them.
so you can see if a company is making huge amounts of litter that they've always made a certain way, and it works because people are buying it, because people are fairly loyal to a brand until one day someone taps them on the shoulder and says, try this instead, which is what I've been doing for a long time on behalf of Dr. Elsey's, which used to be called Precious Cat, which I thought was such a wonderful name, but it was always Dr. Elsey's Precious Cat. And then you had to modernize like FedEx and become Dr. Elsey's, which I
Yeah,
thought was actually charming because you were always so humble and behind the scenes. But these litters that you created, not only did you make them in your garage originally, to I'm sure the consternation of your wife. I don't know if you tracked any litter in the house. You probably did in the early days, but you moved your entire company to a place where the clay is more readily available without a lot of shipping costs, which is true greenness. You moved it to Wyoming.
exactly. Yeah, we
That's
did.
quite a shocker, right? You're in Colorado, your company was in Colorado, and you realize the mountain of clay is in Wyoming. So that's where we need to go. The Mohammed has to come to the mountain.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's been a good move for us to do that, and we've been managing over the years to just get more and more traction. Obviously, we're very proud of the fact that if you Google best cat litter, we will often come up in that Google search.
And without paying.
Oh, if without, it's
I
not
mean,
a
that's
sponsor. It's not a sponsored ad.
that's the thing that people realize. That it's funny because in the early days when I would say my radio show Cat Chat is brought to you by Dr. Elsey's, they would always say, "Oh, that's the cat litter I use. That's the cat
Yeah.
litter I use." And I remember once Gina Zaro, who did such amazing work for you for so long, she was at the Meet the Breeds in New York City. It was a funny idea, a peculiar idea. You could meet the breeds of cats, and then another day you could meet the breeds of dogs. So there were people there with an example of each breed of cat. And another, a more commercial, if you will, cat litter company had their name on the door, so to speak. And I watched for hours as the people who owned the cats, who were showing them as a way to educate the public, would come over to the Dr. Elsey's booth quietly. I think you were even still called Precious Cat, and say, "Can I have some of your litter, please? I need to use your litter because my cat only likes your litter." So, like behind the scenes, and it doesn't matter what the name of the other cat litter was. It's just that the people that knew cats, bred cats, showed cats, loved cats, were educators and shelter managers. They're like, "Yeah, no, thank you. I'll just take some Dr. Elsey's." It was, to me, it was really the proof being in the pudding. But now and then of course we can talk a lot about clean protein. You creating the only dry food that I feel comfortably that I can recommend, when I've always said no kitty crack, no highly processed carbs. Cats are obligate carnivores. Carbs make them sick. And you realize that my little effect over all these years has been that like 4% of people feed only wet food. It's not really, I don't know what the number is,
Yeah,
but I
it's
have not
real.
been able
That's
to
probably
change
correct.
everything. As it is, only 4% of people use pet insurance. And I beg them week in and week out. And you, as a practicing veterinarian, know, God, if you had pet insurance, I could do so many good things for this cat without it hurting your wallet. But you came up with a way to make a dry food that had the protein in it that was correct for the metabolism of a cat. That was, the scientist in you is a pretty strong driver, because you invented kinds of litter, the way that it's created and the job that it does. And you did the same thing with dry food, because you didn't recommend dry food to your patients either.
No, I ran against a wall trying to do a
Yes.
research on cats that were just eating canned food in my clinic, and I literally could not find them. Gina, the gal who was our marketing gal forever, she was the only one that was feeding exclusively
Yep.
canned.
Yep.
So it's here it is, one of those situations where you just have to provide what people are going to feed.
Yes.
And so we got as close as we possibly could to the analysis of a mouse in a dry food. And when I went to veterinary college, it was said that there's no way you can make a dry kibble without having carbohydrates and starches in there. It's like trying to bake a cookie without
Right.
having any flour. But you can use egg and egg white and pork plasma and gelatin. They're expensive ingredients, but when you do that, you can get the carbohydrate levels down to 5, 6%, whereas even Purina's DM diet, which is designed for diabetic cats, is much higher than that, and that's a prescription diet. So we
And
feel
a
really,
lot of the cats won't eat prescription diets, which is a whole nother conversation.
it's a really interesting thing. And of course, I'm speaking to the choir when
You
I'm
are,
talking to you.
and I hope the listeners are in the choir too, but there could be people in the back pew who are like, "What do you mean kitty crack?" Well, you mean by kitty crack is that all dry food is carbohydrate based, except for this invention of Dr. Bruce Elsey's, which is, I don't think it's been applauded enough. And why? Because you're going against the trend. You are a thorn in the side of the companies making things the way they always have. And if you even take away a small percentage of their business, they're not happy. That's just the nature of any business. How do you, I guess the best way is to ignore you. They can't shut you down. You're too loud in your quiet way. You say, "No, this is what's right, and I'm doing it." And so they
Yeah.
can't pull the rug out from under you. But It's interesting that no one has tried to mimic you. It's too complicated and expensive, isn't it?
It is certainly difficult and it is expensive, but it is certainly the best thing for cats.
Oh,
I
they're
might
the
just elaborate a little bit on carbohydrates.
okay.
Of course, carbohydrates are a foreign type of nutrition for cats. And in people, if you eat carbohydrates, your elevation in blood glucose above baseline, it's back down to normal in 1 to 2 hours, depending on the type of carbohydrate that you're consuming. In cats, it's still elevated for 18, even up to 24 hours
Wow.
afterwards.
The body
So
doesn't know what to do with it.
no, and and the problem with that is so it increases your blood sugar, the cat's blood sugar,
Right.
and it fills up their muscle stores, their liver stores, and then it starts filling up all their fat stores.
Mhm.
And that's one of the issues with getting cats that are overweight. You also have their pancreas having to make insulin all this time. So rather than us just making insulin for an hour or two to bring that back down to normal, their pancreas is cranking out insulin for 18 hours. Their pancreas wears out, they become diabetic. These fat cells, they get huge in cats and they only have so many receptors to accept insulin, which transports the glucose, the blood sugar inside the cell. And so that mechanism just breaks down. And so even if insulin is there, it's these cells become insulin
I see.
resistant.
Wow.
So
It's really,
I know
it's
that's a long dissertation, but
no,
I
no,
just it
it's
is
important that
it
people
is
understand that if your cat is diabetic, you have made him or her diabetic. That's what Dr. Elizabeth Hodgkins used to say. Diabetes is a man-made disease. Cats
yeah.
don't get born with diabetes. People do, which is tough, type 1 diabetes. Some dogs do, but and you can't really create diabetes in a dog the way you can in a cat. It's really easy in a cat. Misfeed them for a lifetime, and some will live longer with this inappropriate fuel, and others will develop diabetes younger. The thing that's always a bitter irony is that the veterinarians who, because of their training, because of their indoctrination, because of their single mindedness in either approving that people feed dry food or even selling it, they say, oh, I can help cure that. I have a prescription wet food. But you only needed to feed the wet food to begin with to not become diabetic. And the prescription wet foods are full of carbs, which is even like the triple irony. People that own cats, I find to be the most receptive, the most open minded, the most eager to do anything they can for their kitties because there's not a wealth of information for them. There's not a wealth of a support system that says to them, oh, your cat's pre diabetic, or even your cat has started to need insulin injections. We can help with that. Now, there used to be a group of veterinarians who had a free website, Your Diabetic Cat, I believe it was called, and it was a forum. Before people used chats and before they used the various social media platforms, they would talk people off the limb and onto wet food in a measured, medically safe way. And the cats would reverse their diabetes. It's really important we say this out loud, folks. You have created the disease. It's not your fault. You believed what you were told. The doctors believe what they're told. It's just not the right food for an obligate carnivore. Dr. Bruce, I'm sure you've never been called into a zoo to talk to the lions and tigers about their issues. But if you could get away with feeding a cereal base or a grain based food to these animals that require, I don't know, half an elk a day in a zoo, they'd be doing it. But those are the same guts as a little kitty has. They got to eat
Yeah.
meat. So you have to give them raw, fresh meat. That's what they have to eat. All of them,
Right.
all those cats, whether they're little cats or giant cats. It's so funny that we understand that the cat is not that different from his giant, ancient, and grand ancestors.
right.
We somehow think that because they're in our house, we can treat them like a baby doll, you know?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
feed them little strange colored treats that have glycoline or glycol, whatever in it, to make them soft and squidgy and so bad for the cat.
Yeah.
We can't, we have to tell people to please take off the glasses you're wearing and just get magnifiers. Look
You know,
more closely at your cat.
I think the other thing that people are not aware of is, not only do carbohydrates cause fat cats, but old cats need higher levels of protein because these old cats, they shrivel up and become what we refer to as potato chips. They're
Oh,
like people that are in their hundreds, right?
yes.
So
Hated.
you'll see fat cats up until they're around 12 or so. But then after that, you start seeing these cats that they have muscle wasting. And part of that is as a result that they're not absorbing protein as well as they used to. And the other thing that is an issue with those cats is their appetite is oftentimes compromised either because of bad teeth
Very,
or
yeah.
so we need to get higher levels of protein into these cats. And unfortunately, veterinarians have been taught in vet school and afterwards that protein causes kidney damage in cats, which is not true. It's
It's not
phosphorus that
true.
causes kidney damage.
Yes.
And if the only time to restrict protein is pretty much when it's too late for these cats, when they're near death, because they start getting a buildup of ammonia that just makes them sicker. But at
Mm-hmm.
that juncture, it's really too late. And so, if cats aren't getting enough protein, they start to metabolize their own muscle to get the protein that they need in order to survive.
Become self-cannibals. I would just like to say that Dr. Elizabeth Hodgkins, who often joined me on this show and on Cat Chat when it was on Sirius, wrote a book called Your Cat. Very simple title, Your Cat by Dr. Elizabeth Hodgkins. Her chapter on kidney disease in cats, disproving very scientifically. She has a law degree, she has a medical degree, she had a feline only practice, and she loves everything that we do on this show and everything you've done with your company. That chapter tells you why what your vet is telling you and that vet was told in medical school is wrong. So it's about the quality of protein, and she explains it and she goes through the whole thing about phosphorus and albumin. You could take the chapter into your own vet and book an appointment and sit and look at it together if you don't believe me, and particularly you don't believe Dr. Elsey, because this is another great disservice that we are historically doing to cats. I want to make sure we only have a couple of minutes left that we talk about your Orange Cat initiative in July because you've already got into the world 1.3 million of the Dr. Elsey's orange collars for indoor cats. So they only 5% of them are ever returned when they get lost. Can you hold up the orange? Look at
Okay, hopefully you can see that,
yeah, it's so lovely.
right?
Yes.
And then here it goes ahead and it says that only 5% of indoor cats are returned to their homes once they're lost. So the big problem with this is that if you see a stray dog running around your neighborhood, you know that is a stray dog and you try to get it any information that you can and reunite them with their owner. If you see a stray cat, you just think either that's an outdoor cat or it's just a feral cat.
Yeah.
So if you see a cat that has an orange collar on it, if you can take a look at that collar, then there's a space on the collar where people can write their name and phone number, and you can reunite that cat with their owners. And the other part of these collars that is important is they are a breakaway collar.
Right.
There's always a concern that cats might get their collar caught and it could strangle them, but
Right.
these break away. So It's just an initiative that right now we're in the process of adding 300,000 of these collars into our 40-pound ultra cat litter. And over the last 5 years, we've put 1.3 million of these collars. We probably have not done as good a job as we should to let people know about orange collars.
But now but
We're
tell
trying to
guys,
do that.
and
Yeah.
these orange collars very specifically are an identifier that people can see the cat easily. Of course, it doesn't get run over, but also know that it's a tame cat, it's an indoor cat, it's a loved cat, it's a runaway. It's basically a runaway. So these orange collars, just the ultra 40-pound of litter is how you get the orange collar. But knowing Dr. Elsey, I bet if you write to them, they'll send you one. We've run out of time, but all the things you're doing for cats are so great, Dr. Elsey. And I am personally beyond grateful forever and ever for everything you do to help me get to the cat people, whether it's to delight them with the Cat Film Festival or teach them with Cat Chat. And you're an amazing person. You have a great family. And I know you'll be back in October. We'll talk about the multiple myeloma research fund that you have given millions of dollars to as well. You care about people as well as cats. Cats come first. Thank you so much for being here and for all of
Well,
your wisdom and caring for these kitties.
Tracie, thank you so much for your show and for your books. They've been a godsend. Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure to visit with you. Thank you again.